there's no reason why we should wreck our stuff going up their road.
It's the most difficult ski lift project ever.
We're not as far ahead as we'd like to be right now.
A sophisticated new kind of gondola.
This is a very, very big deal.
Designed to conquer a massive valley known for hurricane-force winds. The peak-to-peak gondola is a high-flying exercise in big courage.
I'm sure there's some shaky knees out there.
Big perseverance.
They just beat the crap right out of that road.
They'll push through winter storms.
Stop, just stop for a sec.
High-altitude disasters.
I'm dead in the water.
And a deadline that, if missed, will transform all this into a gold medal embarrassment.
This could put us back a year.
Canada's beautiful coastal mountains. Home to North America's biggest ski resort, Whistler Blackcomb. Every morning, thousands of skiers pour onto its twin peaks, looking for adventure. The backbone of the resort is its high-speed lift network. It can move 55,000 people an hour up each of the two mountains. But if you want to get from one peak to the other, you're out of luck. A steep, unforgiving valley separates the two mountains.
We made a PowerPoint presentation, and I'd just like to share it with all of you before.
For Wayne Wiltsey, the man who runs Whistler's lift network, conquering this valley with a ski lift is an obsession.
We looked at trams. We've looked at taking chairlifts down into the valley. But with all of those options, you have to ski down low, traverse across, and then ride back up.
A journey that would require an hour of travel time and up to 4 new chairlifts. Wayne has always wanted a single lift across the entire valley. But spanning 4.4 kilometers with gondola cars hanging from a single ribbon of steel cable is a tall order.
It's having a rope that's strong enough to not only support the load, but to support itself across that huge span.
Another problem is the winds. They can top 80 kilometers an hour, the kind of thing that cause gondola cars like these to swing violently like pendulums. Austrian engineers from ski lift maker Doppelmayr have been trying to solve the problem for 10 years. They now think they have found the perfect solution. They call it the Peak-to-Peak 3S. The concept is simple enough. If one cable isn't strong enough to do the job, why not use 3 to share the load? One cable would run on a continuous loop, just like current chairlifts. Gondolas would clamp on and hitch a ride, but for extra stability in the wind, 2 more cables would be mounted a meter apart, forming a kind of railroad in the sky that gondola cars would wheel across, eliminating the pendulum effect.
So it's not able to swing on the 2 cables, it's solid.
It's the largest terminal in the world right now, yes.
Doppelmayr has convinced Wayne and Whistler that this will work. When it's complete, the engineers promise it will be the largest ski lift on Earth, shattering at least 4 world records. In a place where extreme is expected, the resort can't resist. But this will be no easy build. It will have to be done in record time. Whistler Blackcomb is about to host the biggest winter sporting event on the planet, the Winter Olympics. And the gondola is a big part of the games. To make their deadline, Whistler has turned to one of the best in the business.
So we might be looking at an alternate batch plan if it keeps going like this.
Rick Temple is a no-nonsense guy who built his first ski lift 30 years ago.
We just got to push this weekend and get it done.
He's supposed to be sipping Mai Tais in Mexico, but the resort has talked him out of retirement to do one last big build.
Okay, sounds good.
Peak to peak will dwarf anything Rick has done before, and he knows the resort's reputation is in his hands.
The whole world's going to be looking at them, and I think they're very concerned that this thing comes off without any hitches. Yeah, we don't want to hold you guys up, that's for sure.
Construction season high on a mountain is short. They'll have only a few months of good weather over the next 2 summers to get it done.
2 short summers. Yeah.
Already, they're feeling the squeeze.
We lost some time at the beginning of the project with a heavy snowpack, and the late spring, we had a lot of miserable weather. This weekend's critical. That slowed us down getting out of the ground. You gonna pour this today, too?
Trying to, if I could get some mud.
Yeah.
Anchoring the gondola cables to each mountain will require enormous foundations, each 3 stories thick. That means tons of concrete.
So where are we going, up Blackcomb?
But a building boom down in the valley has created a serious shortage.
I would say up top there with that pump truck, we're probably running at 25% if we're lucky today.
Oh, they want another 2.5. Okay, very good.
He said it'll be at least an hour wait after my 3rd truck here.
Everybody's crying for concrete, and we're all trying to slot our times in there to get it.
The concrete shortage has slowed the build to a crawl.
You want a truck one after another. As soon as one's finished, you want the next one in there.
To make things worse, the trucks are not only arriving late, they're arriving light.
Who's this guy behind?
Rick has just learned the rigs are only hauling 3/4 loads.
So normally he can haul like, I think it's 11, 12 yards, and he's hauling 8.
The problem? In the winter, this road is a ski run. It's steep, slippery, and narrow. It was not built for concrete trucks. The concrete supplier is worried about what the road is doing to his equipment.
Well, anytime there's uneven roads with a heavy load, the drive line universals are the weakest part of the truck drive line, and that's what tends to go wrong.
With construction of the foundations moving at a glacial pace, Rick turns his attention to another problem, just down from the worksite.
Looking good. We're ready to rock and roll.
Engineering drawings call for this chairlift to be moved out of the flight path of the new gondola. The top terminal of Solar Coaster will have to shift downhill 50 meters.
The center line of the new lift pretty well goes through the center of the Solar Coaster terminal here.
House movers have been brought in to lift Solar Coaster onto a trailer.
So it's got to be moved very gingerly and carefully into position.
Twisting, or worse, dropping the 150-ton station would damage it beyond repair, costing the resort a vital transportation link up the mountain.
We can't end up torquing that terminal or twisting it or bending it or whatever.
Just you stay right here.
Leading the move is Peter Christensen.
If you don't have it braced properly with a very high center of gravity like that, it could just fall over.
He has removed 2 of Solar Coaster's small towers and built a rock bed to smooth out some of the dips on the ski slope.
Ready?
Okay, don't do anything until I tell you. You can start releasing some brakes, though. You ready on the brakes for freewheeling now?
When they do start to move, the station creeps down the mountain.
That's working good. Gravity's starting to work for us.
Keep an eye on that tie rod, guys.
A new foundation has been built for Solar Coaster. The trailer moves directly over the bolts,
Okay, hold that, hold that.
but the holes aren't lining up.
The alignment at the back end's a little off. Here it's perfect. We'll fine tune it.
It takes time, adjustment,
Stop, hold it, hold it.
and a little bit of muscle.
Nailed it, pretty good.
but Solar Coaster eventually settles into position.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Good job. Thank you. Good job.
3 weeks later, and Rick's concrete problems have just gotten a lot worse.
Yeah, there's the first truck now. This is the year that we really didn't want early snow, and this is the earliest I think I've seen it in the past 15 years here. So now we got to deal with it. I'll let you know if anything goes sideways here.
Lower on the mountain, where it's warmer, the snow has already melted, turning the steep road into a slippery, mucky mess.
The drivers, you know, they're having a hell of a time. You know, we're on the verge of wrecking our stuff.
They're having trouble at 2.3.
Earlier in the day, one of the concrete trucks got stuck less than a quarter way up the mountain.
Really muddy.
Rick scrambles to do something, but not before the concrete supplier calls it quits.
We basically just told them, look, we're sorry, but we can't come up. We're not sending more loads till they fix the road.
If the gondola is going to open on time, these foundations must be finished before the road is closed for the ski season. Without concrete, and with winter rapidly closing in, Rick's schedule is in deep trouble.
There's no reason why we should wreck our stuff going up their road.
On the Twin Mountains of Whistler Blackcomb, a team of engineers has dreamed up a revolutionary new way to move people from one mountain peak to another. They call it the peak-to-peak gondola. When it's done, it will be the longest and highest cable span in the world.
Pardon me?
Rick Temple is supposed to be running this project.
I don't know what they were hauling through there, and they just beat the crap right out of that road.
Right now, he's just running to survive.
The concrete trucks, they had a little trouble.
He's just been told that his concrete supplier has had enough and has pulled his trucks from the job.
When he called and said he was pulling the trucks off the road, I wasn't happy, and I'll tell you, Steve, the site superintendent up top, he was ready to pull his hair out.
There's no reason why we should wreck our stuff going up their road.
Without concrete, work on the mountain stations has stopped. Rick must think fast.
Would we do any good by hauling heavier crush in there?
The new snow has turned the steep road that snakes 11 kilometers up the mountain into a muddy mess.
And we're just fighting a losing battle. Yeah, Dan, Rick Temple here.
The concrete company has agreed to return to the mountain, but only after crushed rock is dumped on the road. The rock should help with traction.
So I just want to give you the assurance that we're doing all we can here, and we'll have that road in good shape for you tomorrow.
He can't afford this delay to last more than a day. With the slowdown on the road, Rick turns his attention to construction of the support towers. The concrete foundation for Tower 2 was finished 2 weeks ago.
We just got the tower head steel in the last couple of days here. We've been hauling it up here.
It's rising from the mountain quickly. The towers will hold the gondola cables just above the ground for about a third of the trip on each side, until the valley floor falls away. This is one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. And 20 stories above the ground, the pressure is on to pick up the pace.
The weather's good. Yeah. Dig and pour the same day.
But for now, things are looking good on the towers. And back down on the road. 24 hours after the concrete truck stopped, the crushed rock is in place, the mud is gone, and Rick is back in business.
So where are we going, up Blackcomb?
Trucks start rolling again right away.
Oh, yeah.
They now have just 5 weeks until the road is closed for good. They're in a race with Mother Nature.
We've lost a little bit of time here, just due to the inclement weather.
By mid-November, 2 of the towers are almost finished.
These guys are working as quickly as they can.
The stations are taking shape. But snow closes the road down for good.
And it might break Saturday afternoon.
Rick pulls the plug.
Probably not going to pan out for Saturday afternoon, what you're saying.
The last of the heavy equipment is moved off the mountain in a fierce storm. Peak to Peak is done for this year. Work will resume in the spring. The break on the construction site gives Wayne Wiltsey, the guy who will operate the finished lift, a chance to check in on progress in Europe.
Excellent.
What do you think?
I think it looks great.
I think so too.
Before the mechanical parts are shipped to the mountain, they are assembled like a giant jigsaw puzzle at Doppelmayer's factory in Austria.
By doing the pre-assembly in the shop here, they're assured that everything is going to fit.
When we get the containers, we have, I think, 2 or 3 days.
Head engineer Peter Luger will arrive in Whistler in a few months to put all this back together again.
Very happy.
I think we are nearly finished, and they start to prepare to disassemble.
But the most important part of the giant lift system isn't here. The cables are being assembled at another factory just across the Swiss border. In all, the Peak to Peak project requires 26.5 kilometers of massive steel rope. It will take a year to complete them. They'll be shipped on 5 separate spools, each one weighing more than 90 tons.
One of the biggest challenges is transporting the ropes over. We cannot afford to damage these ropes. I mean, it's a one-time thing.
Wayne and Whistler Vice President Doug Forsyth head for the factory where the cables are being made.
We lay 2 layers at the same time. So that machine turns right, the front turns left.
The cables are made of dozens of steel wires woven together, just like a giant piece of yarn.
So we want to achieve a very smooth ride. So what you do is you use Z wires, and as they interlock with one another, you have an absolute round surface, perfect ride, super experience, and a happy customer. I don't know if it's the biggest, it's the most unique, that's for sure.
The Whistler team has arrived at a critical time in the cable making process. Before any of these can leave the factory, each must pass a destructive test.
How much does it actually take to break that rope?
Today, engineers will stretch a piece of the haul cable until it snaps.
Under normal operating conditions, we hang 30 tons on that rope. And that means we need a 4.5 times safety. So we're looking at 150 tons.
This hydraulic ram will put that theory to the test. A small section from the back end of the cable is clamped into the machine. If this piece fails early, a new cable will have to be built, and the Peak to Peak gondola will not make its opening date. High on Whistler Blackcomb, the skiers have taken over, and the work has stopped on the Peak to Peak gondola. In Europe, the massive steel cables that will support the gondola cars are almost finished. Whistler's top brass is inspecting the process, knowing the final assembly of the cables is critical to the construction schedule.
Not that we doubt that, but it's always good to see it one more time.
A ship is waiting to take the cables to North America. Before the cables can leave the factory, they must pass a critical test. A 5-meter section has been cut off and placed in a powerful machine that will stretch it to failure.
And we hopefully see that it will make it.
If the cable is flawed, it will fail early and a new one will have to be built, delaying the gondola's opening by months.
See how good it is.
When I say go, just plug your ears.
The machine starts to pull in opposite directions. The cable groans as the stress builds. 2.5 minutes into the test,
But this is important for us.
a computer records the breaking point.
Well, it proved to be 1,585 kilonewtons, and the required braking strength was 1,523.
Translation: this is a super strong cable, far stronger than the engineers had hoped.
And we reached the minimum required braking strength.
If he stamps the papers, then it's approved.
The gondola is still on track.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Spring arrives in Whistler right on time.
What a gorgeous day.
Oh, yeah.
Despite record snowfall over the winter, project manager Rick Temple decides to get to work right away.
We got 2 cats on either side, and they're going to run 20 hours a day.
The important thing is to open the road, give the road a chance to dry out.
But the crews can't wait for the snow to be cleared. Delays last year have left the concrete work behind schedule. So Rick takes to the air, hauling concrete with helicopters.
Can't lose any more time. Today was pretty well a drop-dead date for us to get concrete done, so that we're ready for Delpmeyer when their crews come in on the 4th of May.
Right there, hold the height. Hold the height. It's coming out. Down. Down. All yours, take her away.
Within a few weeks, the towers are complete. Down in town, they're waiting for the cables to arrive from Europe.
Across through the Panama and up to Vancouver, Washington.
They were transferred a few days ago from a ship to a train. But like lost baggage at an airport, the 5 spools, each weighing more than a space shuttle, have somehow vanished.
2 o'clock.
Kevin Carroll and Herman Arns
Maybe we need the help of the CEO again.
are in charge of moving them from Switzerland to the top of Whistler.
It's frustrating because it's difficult to complete your plans. So we've been kind of flying by the seat of our pants a little bit for the last few days. You know, obviously they want the first one up so they can start pulling the rope.
The missing cables are holding up the entire project.
Nothing today, and we expect to train in maybe by 8 or 9 o'clock tomorrow night.
When they head to the rail yard to check on the preparations for the arrival of the cables, they find another problem. The head of the National Railway is in town for a golf tournament and has decided to park his luxury rail car on the track needed to unload the cables. One man's vacation could cost the Peak-to-Peak project yet another delay if something isn't done fast. It doesn't take long before Herman cooks up a plan.
Yeah, he actually invested some of our pension fund in the CN Rail and then called the investor relations of CN.
As a major investor in the railway, Herman is put through to the president, who promises to clear the track pronto.
It's not the first time he's done something like that. I've actually learned from him to deal with a lot of problems that way. Go straight to the top.
By morning, the luxury car has moved, and by dusk, the cables are rolling into town.
They have to burn all these brackets off the deck of the rail car.
The next morning, Rick Temple and his team are ready to go. As they head for the mountain, Kevin isn't sure what to expect.
I mean, we're moving this up a ski trail. Basically, it's a ski trail that the snow has been cleared from.
Rick and Herman decide to throw everything they can at the load.
Leaving lot 8, heading for the Alpine.
The transport truck will get pulled and pushed up the mountain with heavy road equipment. 2,000 horsepower is still not enough. The truck struggles through what is supposed to be the easy part. They're still on pavement. And less than 1/10 of the way up the mountain, a tow bar snaps. The peak-to-peak gondola
We're dead in the water on the road here right now.
is stalled again. In the mountains north of Vancouver, North America's largest ski resort has just 6 months to finish what will be the world's largest ski lift.
We'll have to stop for a couple of seconds to lower the trailer suspension.
In all, more than 26 kilometers of cable has been carefully woven together for the job. The first of 5 90-ton spools is on its way up the mountain. The cables should have been on top of the mountain 2 weeks ago. The crew is moving as fast as they can. And this tow bar has just snapped. They are less than 1/10 of the way up the mountain, and this is supposed to be the easy section.
We're dead in the water on the road here right now.
When we asked for more power, we broke the pole.
Go with a sling? Maybe?
Yeah, I don't know if we have one that is strong enough, unless you have a very big one.
Oh, I mean, we got big ones. Oh, yeah.
A sling is flexible and strong,
Sorry, Bill.
made of tiny strands of Teflon bundled together.
Okay.
Within minutes, Whistler's resident, Mr. Fix-It,
15 in a single, so here you've got 30 tons, right?
Billy Stiles, is on the job.
You've got over 60 tons with a safety factor, which gives you a 300-ton braking strength here, so I don't think that there's going to be a problem there.
Well, we hope it's a solution to this problem, hopefully.
Within an hour, they're rolling again.
Okay, loader, start to pull.
Progress is slow, but the Teflon rope is holding.
Keep going. I gotta tell you when to stop. Keep going, guys. Keep moving. Keep moving.
That's not the steepest section yet. We've got a much steeper one yet.
Rick walks out front, and as if he doesn't have enough to worry about already, one of his crew is coming down with the flu.
And my stomach making all kind of noise.
I'm just working the road now with Rajon, just in case he does get sick. At least we can keep this thing going over the next couple of days.
They'll fight through mud holes, hairpin corners, uneven road that threatens to topple trailer and spool. But halfway up the mountain,
Hey, the 40-ton just blew a tire.
yet another delay on a move that should have happened days ago.
We're organizing a new tire for that. In the meantime, we've got a crew headed for another big rock truck on Whistler, and we'll mobilize that and get it over here.
By the time they get it fixed and claw their way to the top of the mountain, it's almost dark. They've just worked a 19-hour day, walked 11 kilometers, all of it uphill.
Stop, guys. Stop, everybody. Stop.
Whoa!
One 90-ton reel down,
The first one's up, Maris.
4 more to go.
Pulling that kind of things on those sharp curves and those hills, you know, that was very harder than what I was thinking.
With the concrete work done and the cable on the mountain, the pressure shifts from Rick Temple to Peter Luger and his team from Austria. The first thing they must do is string the cables over each tower and across the valley. They're already behind schedule, but Peter knows they can't afford to rush.
During the rope pulling, we must be sure that we don't touch the ground with the track rope, because that could damage the track rope.
The steel cable is too heavy to pull across the valley with a helicopter, so they'll start with a lighter nylon rope, carefully placing it over each tower.
Take off.
Check that break off. The crew on the ground keeps tension on the line, so the helicopter can accurately place the cable. They'll repeat this 5 times, once for each cable. Over the next few days, the cables will be clamped to the nylon line and winched across the valley over the towers. Once across, the cables are anchored into place inside the stations. 6 weeks later, and the track cables on both sides of the tower, along with the new haul rope, are in place.
We got to keep this area clear here.
The gondola cars are ready to go out on the line.
These are real Cadillac cabins.
Okay, guys, let's launch the first cabin.
Hitching a ride across the valley, a one-way trip takes only 11 minutes. This lift must now run for 100 hours straight to prove it's working properly.
It's not gonna go anywhere, it's fine.
Wayne Wiltsey and his Whistler crew will use the time to train staff on how to run the lift and keep it safe.
I'm ready when you are.
But just when things seem to be going perfectly,
Stop, just stop for a sec. Stop for a second. This. The haul rope is all up here. Look, here, belly, here. Yeah.
there's big trouble on the cable.
It's not good.
"100 kilometers north of Vancouver, Whistler's Twin Peaks tower over North America's biggest ski resort. Engineers have managed to link the two mountains for the first time ever with a massive gondola, 4.4 kilometers long.
It comes up from the other side.
Billy Stiles,
It's not gonna go anywhere, it's fine.
Wayne Wiltsey, and the crew from Doppelmayr are high on Tower 3, testing a safety system for the gondola. With just 6 weeks till opening, there are still thousands of tiny details that need to be looked after. Chief Engineer Peter Luger makes sure nothing is missed.
You have to always keep your strings up, okay?
As they wrap up what's been a pretty productive day and get ready to head home,
Stop, just stop for a sec. Stop for a second.
Billy
This.
notices a problem.
The haul rope is all up here. Look. Yeah. Here, belly. Here. Yeah. Hey, Peter.
The haul rope isn't structural,
Peter.
but it's the propulsion system for the entire gondola.
Look at the rope.
It's what pulls the cars across the valley. If the damage is severe, the cable will have to be replaced.
Here, here.
You know, hopefully it's not that bad. So it's kind of disappointing right now. I mean, things were going very well, but
The damage is the kind of thing that could threaten the resort's big grand opening, now just a few weeks away.
You do lose your breath for a moment and you think, oh man, what's this going to mean? Because I know how long it takes to manufacture the cable, how long it took to get it here, and the possibilities that are going through my mind is this could put us back a year. It might be next year before we open this thing if we really, really damaged it.
There it is.
The damaged section is moved into the terminal.
Is there something before?
Nothing.
Peter snaps pictures and emails several back to Europe.
My feelings, it happened, I cannot change it, so it doesn't make sense if I get crazy. We have to keep cool minds and do the right steps.
you know what'll happen is if it doesn't go back in.
Wayne Wiltsey is trying to stay positive.
We have potentially two. There would just be potentially 2 broken wires.
Yeah, there have been better days than today.
A day and a half later, Norm Duke, one of the best cable splicers in the world, arrives.
Can we drop it over?
See, all the damage is down here, so we want to roll the whole.
The damaged section is isolated, and winches are used to loosen the tension on the cable, allowing Norm to inspect and move individual wires.
Maybe over the whole thing.
216 individual steel wires, woven together, allow the cable to hold 150 tons of weight.
Okay, there we go.
Almost 5 times what's needed to hold up the gondola cars.
So that means there can be broken wires. That's natural, that can happen, and the rope still has the same brake force.
An investigation has revealed that the damage was done during a test of a rarely used emergency system. A clamp on the top of one of the cars pinched the cable while workers were adjusting it as the cars passed over a tower. Shavings from the cable have been discovered on top of one of the cabins.
Definitely had too much pressure on the carriage, and definitely came across here with enough force to grab some wires. Wow.
While Norm figures out what to do, Peter Luger is trying to figure out how to prevent it from happening again.
We have to improve part of the process that we will do immediately. Don't know how at the moment, but I have an idea and we will immediately go for a design.
After 2 hours of careful examination, Norm Duke has some good news.
Cool.
None of the wires are broken.
Looking up.
A few are bent and out of place, but Norm is confident this isn't as bad as it looks.
Ready? Yeah.
We want to work the wires back into the rope and have a nice smooth surface with everything working together.
The pinched wires will need to be teased back into place. And like a surgeon, Norm goes to work.
We pounded the wires back into their shape. And then this is just to hold it in place till the tension goes on. This is looking really good.
But before the repair is complete, it must pass Peter Luger's inspection. As a final check, the cable is passed through a machine that detects any flaws or internal damage to the wires. The entire cable loop, 8.8 kilometers long, is examined. The area that was repaired looks flawless.
Okay, we stop it.
The damage has vanished.
But it looks good, huh?
Oh, this place looks beautiful. It's so perfect, you know.
Peter is relieved.
I feel good now. I feel much better.
You'll do that, but
We have recorded everything.
Yep.
And that'll be done again.
The peak-to-peak gondola has dodged a bullet. But they know they're not out of the woods yet.
We need to get the 100-hour runtime, and we need to commission the lift, and it's piling up.
Ready, boys? The lift won't get its license to operate until engineers can prove that this won't happen again. Peter and his team from Doppelmayr think they have the solution.
We made a brainstorming, and at the end, we found an easygoing solution.
Over the next day, plans for a new tool to protect the cable are sketched out on the back of a napkin. Engineers from Austria draw up blueprints, and work on the shop floor starts almost immediately. With only a few weeks to go, the tool will have to be built and shipped to Whistler well before opening day. It's a tight schedule, but Peter knows they must make it.
And if we don't reach those dates, our clients won't be happy. And at the end, their clients, the skiers and the boarders, won't be happy.
With the engineering troubles under control, at least for now, the focus shifts to the problem of staffing the massive, highly advanced ski lift.
We're getting to the point now where we need to get the training done with this weather window.
Crews will need to know how to operate, repair, and carry out rescues 140 stories above the valley floor.
There are so many redundancies so that we really can push the rescue case far, far, far away. And I hope it never happens.
But should a cabin ever get stuck out on the line, it won't stay there for long. Peter Luger's team has installed 4 high-wire tow trucks.
We have a rescue carriage, which is parked on the Tower 2 and Tower 3.
Winches reset.
10-4.
Sean will go over all the pinch points on it with you while you're out there.
10-4. You should have a reset now.
Rescuers will ride down the line, hook on, and drag the stranded car back to safety on either side of the valley.
Sean, you want to go with these guys?
Billy needs to find and train dozens of rescuers on how to make this system work.
Prepare to stop.
Up here, you better be comfortable with heights.
Oh, I love it, right? It's awesome. The view's up there, 1,000 feet off the deck.
I'm sure there's some shaky knees out there.
Rescue wings secured.
But the crews aren't going to let a little fear of heights slow them down. Opening day is now just a few weeks away, and their biggest worry is that new tool. It hasn't arrived, and without it, there will be no grand opening. The grand opening of the massive peak-to-peak gondola is now just 2 days away.
So this will be your 75?
And it still doesn't have an operating permit. The haul rope that was damaged a few weeks ago
Here.
has been repaired.
That box just showed up.
And a new piece of equipment designed to prevent damage from happening again has just arrived in Whistler.
These are the lifting devices.
There are 4 of them in all. Each must be assembled and placed on each of the 4 towers.
This is the magic tool we've been waiting for.
Peter Luger's team from Doppelmayr designed the tool on the back of a napkin and manufactured them in Europe in record time.
The last weeks have been very, very hard. It was a hell of a job to finish.
The question now, do they work?
We're going to want to do the test on the peak-to-peak.
What's the new piece going in here now?
An official from the government is watching closely. If the new tool doesn't protect the haul rope, the gondola won't get its operating permit, and Whistler will have to cancel its big opening day party.
We are so close to the finish line.
With the wind blowing and the snow falling, Wayne Wiltsey watches nervously.
We're just rolling it downhill.
But the design works perfectly.
You can see the rope lifter working now.
The new tool lifts and protects the cable and keeps it from being pinched on any part of the towers or the gondola cars.
Maybe stop.
Stop.
The whole rope does not lie in the horseshoe anymore. That's exactly what we want to have.
They've done it.
That's ready, Peter. The permit will be issued, and it looks like everything's great, good to go for Friday.
They couldn't have cut it any closer. The lineup starts early on opening day.
Are you number 1?
Everyone wants to be the first to cross the massive valley.
So we're just sort of prepping the cabin before everybody shows up this morning.
Getting ready to get on the peak-to-peak.
Wayne Wiltsey now has the keys to his brand new ski lift.
Oh, I'm kind of tired. We're happy.
Peter Luger has survived one of the most stressful builds of his career.
I'm super. I feel really well now.
Doug Forsyth, the guy who signs the checks for Whistler Blackcomb, is beyond relieved.
There were so many times when we could have gotten discouraged, and people didn't.
So it looks like there's a huge crowd outside.
The peak-to-peak gondola has changed the face of skiing at Whistler forever. After millions of years separated by geology, the resort's twin peaks are now joined by record-setting technology. It's been a long 2 years and a stressful 2 weeks, full of unpleasant surprises. Whistler Blackcomb knows that the peak-to-peak crew pulled it out of the fire. They simply wouldn't give up. For Peter, it has earned him one last surprise. From now on, the ski run that runs under the world's largest gondola will bear his name.